My heart went out for her, but it turned into my worst nightmare. My girlfriend betrayed my trust, sharing my thoughts with friends who bullied me for months. Now I'm a shell of myself, wondering how to fight for someone who listens to the wrong voices. Hello, I just wanted to give you a heads up that this might be a lengthy message. I hope that is acceptable, but I have been holding this in for such a long time and it has been weighing heavily on me. I just need to release it. I apologize if there are any grammatical mistakes. English is not my first language and I am trying my best. How far can you go for someone? Before I met her, I was the type of person who only focused on academics and business because life forced me into that position. I did not have much time for anything else. Parties, romance, socializing with friends, that was never part of my plan. I was just your typical guy in the classroom, quiet, preferred to be alone, and did not care about the rumors. What mattered to me was solely academics and getting home to work on my business. That was it. I had very few interactions and only a handful of friends I could speak to about my personal life, as I did not like sharing my thoughts. Occasionally, my classmates would discuss adulting topics and try to learn about my hobbies, interests, or the kind of life I was leading. Honestly, I had no idea how to respond to those discussions. My upbringing was not much different from anyone else's, but in terms of my personality, I guess that's where things were a bit different. I never really enjoyed being around large crowds, so I did not make many friends as I grew up. However, when I did form friendships, I kept them close and regularly checked in on them because I knew how it felt to be alone, and it could be sad sometimes, even for an introvert. I was not exactly the best when it came to socializing. I was awkward, quiet, and uncertain about how to connect with people beyond surface-level conversations. However, when it came to academics and business, that was where I felt confident. I actually started my own venture in 7th grade and was already making a decent amount, around 50,000 pesos, approximately 1,000 to 60,000 monthly. That is a reasonable amount to live a comfortable life here in my country. It was not just a hobby, it became a crucial part of how I survived, coped, and felt I had control over something in my life. Of course, throughout those years, I did not care much about money for myself. All I wanted was to live comfortably, a good life. That is why I let my parents manage our finances at home while I contributed most of what I earned. My father barely earned enough to support our family of 4, and my parents were drowning in debt. Therefore, it was simple for me. If I could help, I would. I felt a need to repay them somehow because they were always supportive of my endeavors, even when they did not fully understand them. They never made me feel like I was alone in pursuing what I wanted. That kind of love my parents provided shaped the man I am today. It was not perfect, but it was sufficient to mold me into who I am now. I never engaged in vices. No parties or wild nights. I had my own world and remained there. I preferred deep conversations over small talk and my hobbies. They may seem a bit unusual to most people, but I loved collecting toys, tinkering with technology, and geeking out over random things that made me feel alive. Fast forward to when everything changed. I met her during my second year of college. She is a female, 19 years old, and I am a male, 20 years old. When she entered my life, I did not know what I was feeling. I did not even recognize it as love. However, there was something different, something unfamiliar, an emotion I had never experienced before. It was not loud or overwhelming, but it quietly made space in my heart. For someone like me, who has always been focused, reserved, and emotionally guarded, that feeling was both terrifying and beautiful. This time, my heart prevailed over my mind. Despite all the hesitations and all the what-ifs running through my mind, I decided to send her a message because the feelings became too unbearable. It was a simple message, nothing out of the ordinary, just a casual hi, but somehow that minor act felt like a significant leap. I did not know what would happen next. All I knew was that I wanted to get to know her better, and for once, I was willing to step out of my comfort zone to make that happen. Coincidentally, she was part of my group for an activity, so I had the perfect excuse to reach out as well. Deep down, I recognized that it was not just about the task I was about to assign to her. I genuinely wanted to talk to her. I gave her the assignment she needed to complete for the group activity and assisted her with it too. When it was finished, I also asked if she could help me with mine in return. The truth is, I could have easily completed it all by myself, but I did not want it to end there. I wanted to prolong our interaction just to keep the conversation going, just to have a reason to stay connected. For the record, she is just like me, an academic achiever, so it was not surprising that I began falling for her. My instincts about her were correct. She possessed that rare combination of quiet strength, intellect, and grace. She was not trying to impress anyone, she was simply herself, and somehow that was sufficient. She exhibited the qualities I envisioned in a woman: reserved, focused, someone with depth, and capable of engaging in deep conversations with me. But there was something more, something I could not articulate. She was unlike anyone I had ever known. Throughout those months, we gradually built a strong and stable foundation. We got to know each other deeply, not just through sweet words, but also through presence and patience, among other things. Eventually, we both decided to attempt a romantic relationship. However, she informed me upfront that we could not be official for 2 years despite most of her family members being supportive of me. Honestly, that was acceptable to me. I had never cared much about labels anyway. What mattered was the way we cared for each other, and for me that was more than sufficient. My trust in her was 100%. After all, one should not be in a relationship if all they do is doubt their partner all the time. That is not love. It is merely manipulation or a sense of accomplishment. She was not a trophy for me or anything like that. I was not just someone to her, I was her best friend, and she meant everything to me. It was all perfect. We studied together, played games together, and created a software application consisting of facts about ourselves. The more we learned about each other, the better the reward. My way of courting her did not involve typical flowers or grand gestures. I expressed my feelings through letters and something a bit more personal. I created a custom software game specifically for her. In it, she had to navigate through the game and complete it, and at the end, just like those you see on TikTok, a question would pop up asking, "Is it okay if I court you?" If she answered yes or no, her response would be sent to me automatically. It was cheesy and nerdy, but it was entirely genuine. That game and those letters were all part of how I attempted to show her that I was not just serious, I was all in for her. I stepped out of my comfort zone entirely because I loved her. With her, my life began to improve. I started saving and planning for the future in all aspects of my life. I became better every day. Fast forward approximately 6 months later, things started to decline. It began with a simple argument between us, nothing explosive, but somehow her friends, who were also my classmates, escalated it into something larger than it was. I was never particularly close with her group, but I introduced her to mine and she was welcomed with open arms. The same could not be said about her friend's attitude toward me. There was always a tension, a quiet dislike rooted in jealousy or perhaps just misplaced interest. Our argument started when I told her she needed to learn to say no. People constantly asked her for favors, notes, and group work, but she could not bring herself to decline even when it exhausted her. I hated seeing her like that. She would complain to me about how tired she was, how it was too overwhelming for her. Sometimes I helped her finish the tasks she received from her friends, but I knew it was not healthy. I also asked her to stop sharing her drinks with others out of concern for her health. Initially, I did not see it as a problem, but I grew increasingly jealous because there was almost no distinction between her friends and me. Whenever I tried to spend quality time with her, just the two of us, her friends would always come first, and almost every time our plans would get canceled or the atmosphere would feel different than I wanted. Those were the same people who would sit next to her during exams to copy answers, something I never did because I respected her effort and time. It also hurt my pride because I have standards, and copying someone else's work would be quite shameful for me. After a while, I stopped interacting with her friends, 7 people, after witnessing conversations that revealed they were merely waiting for us to break up and gossiping about me behind my back despite everything I had done for them. They were advocating for another guy who had a crush on her. These were people to whom I had given snacks, treats, and printed handouts almost daily. I helped them without asking for anything in return. However, instead of appreciating my kindness, they twisted it. I put an end to all interactions right then. To them, it seemed I was merely a source of money. I had never been treated like this in all my high school years, only in college. I opened up to her, writing full paragraphs trying to express how I felt, what I was observing, and how I thought her friends were manipulating her. I simply wanted her to be treated the way she deserved, with real friendship, not out of convenience. Then she herself showed those messages to her friend group, the exact words I had written for her. After that, everything unraveled. She admitted she was scared of losing her friends and recognized that she could easily be manipulated. Yet even then, her anger towards me grew. She would not talk to me. She completely shut me out. I tried to mend things, giving her space, keeping my distance, and telling her I would be there when she was ready to talk. During this time, I still sent her letters and emails just to show that I cared and that I never stopped thinking about her. After she leaked the conversation, everything turned into a nightmare. For the next 3 months, I was verbally harassed and bullied. It did not matter which room, subject, or lab I was in, they would whisper, laugh, throw comments, and mock me as if I were a joke. It slowly destroyed me mentally. I began to take absences because I could no longer bear being in that environment. But even when I was absent, they did not stop. They would still gather and discuss me. The worst part. The very person I trusted the most, my best friend, female, 19 years old, joined them. She leaked the new messages I sent privately, fueling the fire. I would not even know about it until a day later, when someone with a friend in that group would inform me about what was happening. That person confided in my friend, expressing his discomfort that those private messages should have remained between us. Instead, they became ammunition for public ridicule. I was bullied for 3 months straight, and I was never the same afterward. I became traumatized. I felt betrayed. I felt exposed. My best friend, someone I stood up for, someone I believed had my back, took part in tearing me down, perhaps to gain their approval or to boost her own status. I tried to respond appropriately. I reported everything to the school, shared the emotional trauma I was enduring, and begged them to take action. However, nothing was done. Instead, I was the one summoned to the office, and what the counselor said shattered me. If they are ganging up on you, perhaps you are the problem. That moment crushed me. The institution, the person whom I loved the most and imagined my life with after all the effort, love, and patience I had invested, I was reduced to a villain in a story I never wanted to be part of. Eventually, I dropped out of college. The last straw was when they embarrassed me in front of 50 people during a physical education practice. I cried so much on my way home because the only person I had trusted and loved participated in it. That broke me. 2 months later, I decided to change, not to move on, but to redirect my pain. I chose a different path, focused on my real goals, aimed to earn 6 digits monthly, delved deeper into my hobbies, and worked hard to improve my physical appearance. But the truth, all of this was still for her. And somehow, by luck or some twist of fate, I managed to achieve it, except for improving my physical appearance. I kept thinking that maybe someday she would look back and regret the decisions she made. Not because I want her to be hurt, but because I hope she realizes what we had was special. Regardless, with each passing month, I still sent her emails about my smallest achievements and asked her about her life in school and outside, although I never received any response. Just 2 days ago, I sent her some gifts through a trusted friend. However, I was informed that she refused them, all because her friends were advising her not to accept anything from me. They were encouraging her against me, so I traveled back 4 times and gave those gifts away. I am uncertain if I should keep holding on. I imagined a life with her, one where we supported each other, grew together, and fulfilled every promise we made. I meant every word I ever told her. I never make promises I do not intend to keep. I still love her, and perhaps a part of me always will. But how do you continue fighting for someone who no longer stands beside you? It hurts to see it end this way. I still wish I could shield her from all the things she does not recognize. But I am beginning to understand that I cannot keep protecting someone who will not let me in, someone who listens more to the voices that bring her down than to the one who only ever wanted to uplift her. If you have any thoughts or advice, I would genuinely appreciate it, everyone. Thank you for reading. Story 2. I'm a 27-year-old guy leading my 25-year-old girlfriend on, addicted to her emotional roller coaster. I just want to live in your pocket, she cries, yet I feel nothing but anxiety when her love fades. Am I a total pose for chasing this validation instead of true affection? I recognize I am a piece of work, as is evident in the title, but I do not understand why I feel the way I do or how to escape this situation. A summary is provided at the end of this post. I need advice or help in understanding what is wrong with me. I have not felt this way from the beginning and have not been leading her on intentionally. I genuinely believed I loved her until I recently reflected on our relationship and realized I do not truly like or care about anything about her anymore. I am merely chasing the feeling of her loving me again. We experience cycles in our relationship where she is all over me, obsessed, willing to do anything I ask regardless of how irrational, going out of her way to do sweet things for me, planning her entire schedule around my day. For example, she will only plan to do other things if I am at work or at the gym. Otherwise, she simply waits around for me, making or purchasing gifts for me, being extremely affectionate, learning about my interest in her free time. And it seems our discussions revolve around how much she loves me, misses me, desires me, or how happy she is to be with me, as well as how much she admires me and wants to be like me or how I make her feel better. She called me a day after we saw each other, in tears, sobbing that she misses me and wishes we lived together and that she just wants to live in my pocket. We live 1 hour and 30 minutes apart, making it somewhat of a long-distance relationship. Much of our time is spent on the phone or FaceTime. She does not want to do anything without me. It is to an extreme degree. She is hypersexual and forward, and we can engage in sexual activities and cuddle for entire weekends without ever leaving the bed for anything other than showering, using the restroom, or eating. As a perfectly sexually functioning, very fit and healthy male, I take Cialis, which she does not know, just to keep up. I will admit that I do not feel suffocated or bothered by this at all. I enjoy it immensely. It feels incredible. I have never felt this amazing with anyone before. When we are good, it feels as though she is my soulmate and the only person for me. The issue is that this intensity does not last. When our relationship began, this intensity persisted for much longer, and she would not withdraw, but as time passed, she only demonstrates this level of intensity for a couple of weeks before withdrawing for at least a few more weeks to a month. It has reached the point where I am now spending more time waiting for her to behave this way again than actually enjoying the relationship. During the times she is affectionate, I feel like I am walking on eggshells to avoid ruining it, trying to make it last as long as possible, even though I know it is temporary. During these phases, I genuinely love our relationship and enjoy being with her immensely. I do not just like receiving this level of affection, I also love giving it back and treating her as the object of my affection. However, the difference is that I am happy to be this way consistently, while she eventually feels suffocated and distances herself. She becomes cold, rarely responds to texts, does not want to call or initiate seeing each other, although she never outright rejects me if I ask. I simply do not like pursuing her and prefer it when she pursues me, is busy despite having previously skipped work or canceled plans for me at a moment's notice whenever I asked. She only replies with "I love you," or if she says it first, it is typically before she goes to bed. She never says she misses me, is extremely brief with me, becomes sarcastic and adopts an attitude, and transitions from talking about the future in terms of us to discussing her own plans. For example, when we get married becomes "when I get married," and "we should travel to Europe next year" becomes "I want to go to Europe next year," etc. It feels as though she becomes an entirely different person. She becomes so distant that I swear it feels like she is disgusted by me or resents me or holds some kind of contempt for me when we are together. I become so anxious that I realize I am not even being myself. I am presenting an edited version of myself, performing to try and receive that validation and attention from her again. These phases now last longer than the positive phases, which drives me crazy. I used to be secure, but now that I have become so anxious, I check her social media, constantly seek reassurance, feel permanently nauseous or experience a terrible sensation in my gut, check her phone occasionally, and my entire world revolves around worrying about when she will like me again. Something small like her saying "I miss you" or "I love you" first feels like a massive wave of relief, and when she is completely back into me again, it feels like I am high on drugs. I have attempted to break up with her a few times, telling her that it is clear she no longer wants to be with me and that she is acting cold, but she denies it, stating that nothing is wrong and that she is completely the same. This makes me feel insane, so I now document how positive and affectionate she is towards me, how often she initiates, says "I love you" first, and so on. There is a significant difference. She agrees to break up, but then 1 or 2 days later she is calling, begging, crying, and pleading, making promises to change, being overly obsessed and extremely sexual with me once again, and I can never say no at that moment. Everything feels great again and it seems like things will work. Then, gradually, she withdraws more and more until there are only a few breadcrumbs of love and affection left. I have transitioned from being a very fit, driven, and purpose-focused young man to being obsessed with her, skipping the gym, and solely able to concentrate on how she feels about me, waiting for her to want me again. Nothing else seems to matter in comparison to her feelings for me. I have become hypersensitive to the slightest changes in tone, facial expressions, or delays in communication. I feel that I cannot be myself and that all I do is try to make her like me again. I have gone from being relaxed, confident, and easygoing to an insecure and anxious mess. Even our intimate life has become solely about making sure she reaches her peak satisfaction as many times as possible, so she becomes obsessed with me again, leaving no intimacy. I do not even enjoy it anymore. It feels so performative, as though I am mechanically bringing her pleasure and doing what I believe she will like. It is one of the few guaranteed validations I can obtain from her consistently. To be honest, I am not even physically attracted to her anymore. I have also come to realize that there is not much I genuinely like about her after reflecting on our relationship. She is very pretty, with genuinely model-like features and body, and actually very intelligent and competent in many areas, but that is about it. I am merely attracted to the feeling she provides me and the way she makes me feel. I engage with her primarily on a superficial level to obtain that from her. When we converse about normal topics unrelated to our relationship, expressions of love or intimacy, I am incredibly bored and uninterested. Even my expressions of love and care for her and doing anything she desires are simply me treating her as an avatar for me to pour love into so that I can feel good about myself. I do not genuinely care about her anymore. I have also recognized that I walk on eggshells to avoid treating her well. If I do not treat her well, maintain distance, prioritize plans with friends over her, or leave her unanswered, she becomes obsessed and chases me once again, but as soon as I reciprocate, she withdraws. It is incredibly frustrating, confusing, and hurtful. I do not actually connect with her on a deep level. What I believe to be connection and intimacy is merely me trying to force her into an idealized version of herself. Our relationship, despite its intensity, is superficial and lacks any real love and care for one another. The issue is that I dream she may change and love me consistently. I have already invested 2 years into this and we have so many plans for the future. Whenever I have mustered the courage to attempt a breakup, she has drawn me back in and I know I am not strong enough to resist, so I allow her to believe that we will get married, move in together, and share a life. Deep down, however, I know this relationship must end and I need to exit as soon as possible. I feel like a terrible person because she is a good human being and does so much for me. Unlike me, I believe she genuinely loves me but struggles with intimacy, while I am simply using her for attention and a validation high. Please help, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with her? Can we resolve this, or is this relationship doomed? Summary: my girlfriend acts obsessed with me until I reciprocate, then she withdraws and becomes cold. I have come to realize that I do not love her and am only pursuing the feeling of her obsession again, idealizing a fantasy version of her that does not exist. While she is distant, I feel like I am losing my mind, and anxiety takes over my life. I know I need to break up but lack the strength to do so, resulting in me leading her on.